Thank you so much. The years that I've been working with the visible thinking, I have seen day and night in the life of children and classrooms that are bringing life to the children's learning. And it's not just strategies that teachers learn to use, the philosophy behind that, and all the things that go behind that. So something that they taught the first day, the transfer, I guess, changed a little bit. You talk about the cultural forces that Ron Richard talks about, and one of those is expectations, having high expectations for children. If you have high expectations, children are thinkers, you will provide opportunities for them to show what they know, what they think. That's the curriculum, and the curriculum should be something that's very attractive, but that comes with a good expectation, high expectation. While you are interacting with the children, the thinking routines always help uncover children's thinking. And those are excellent strategies that you just shared with us. Those are some of the many thinking routines that you have developed in classrooms, and those are really powerful. Something that Shari also mentioned is the importance of using the language of thinking, because that helps the children become aware of the type of thinking that they are using to solve a problem or to find a problem. Another thing that's important is the teacher models the type of thinking that she's using to solve a problem, because children will follow those strategies. And the interactions are very powerful as well. When teachers respect the children as individuals who have their own way of thinking, and thinking is valued, then the children will say, well, I'm a thinker, so I can continue trying and and try new ideas and things of doing. Another thing is capturing that thinking, because the child can go back and revisit those things. So that I'm very inspired by the Reggio Emilia approach. They use a lot of documentation to capture children's learning. I am a parent of 3 kids, and taking pictures of my kids have been something that I have always done, and you remember what happened when you revisit a picture. So the same thing happens here when the children are invited to revisit what happened. They become more conscious about their thinking. And another very important thing, but it's constantly sacrificing time and the slow looking that you work a lot. So I'm using my colleague Maria Jimena's image to say that the cultural forces, they are all interrelated. If you have low expectations, then you will not provide good opportunities for children to grow. So everything is connected with that. And if the children are not having great experiences, then will not need thinking routines to promote any type of thinking. So everything is connected. So I like to focus on some of these cultural forces and see how powerful they are for children. So let's start with expectations. When we talk about young children or children with special needs, sometimes the expectations are low. The children surprise us. And sometimes the interactions with the children are also limited by the type of expectations. But if we have strong expectations and we know that the children can tell you things and that they can show you that they are good thinkers, you will be very surprised. So let me share with you an experience with Out of Eden. These are 3-year-olds that were walking around the block. They were using the thinking routine, the see, think, and wonder. It's what do you see, what do you think, and what do you wonder? And that's part of the routine. They do this on a daily basis wherever they go. But then they have discussions about the things that they are doing. So see these 3-year-olds in Colombia. They interview a policeman after having some conversations.
Yo soy el subteniente para todos. Sí, señor.
Estás vigilando si alguien está muy malo, si matan a las personas.
Para evitar que cometan delitos.
Es un delito.
Es algo que castiga a la persona, o sea, un delito es una... ¿Señor?
¿Ladrón?
Un ladrón comete un delito cuando está robando, eso es un delito. Son cosas que son malas. ¿Señor?
¿Qué dice que robar?
¿Qué es robar?
Quitarle las cosas a uno. Perdonar a las personas si les quitan una cosa. Creo que no te da palabra perdón.
Lo que nosotros debemos hacer con las personas que causan algún daño.
Pero perdonar sí es la responsabilidad.
Yeah, so this type of conversation with young kids, 3-year-olds, those are things that don't come just like that. It comes when you have high expectations, when you talk to the children, when they have the opportunity to tell what they are thinking. So let's continue with the cultural forces, and now let's talk about opportunities. Time, that's the slow looking. And inviting the children just to see the things that are happening around, very similar to your example. The children come up with things that you never suspect, and they are great observers. And I have seen with very young children, when I was a kindergarten teacher, when I asked them, okay, who has a pink, thinking that nobody has, and they can find a little dot in your clothes, and they see that. As we grow, we lose that, if we are not exposed to slow down, we lose that capacity to see things in our surroundings. So this is another project from out of Eden in one of the schools here in Miami, where the kids were walking around and trying to find out things. Now I'm going to share a similar activity in another kindergarten classroom. And this story is about this little boy that just arrived in Miami. You have probably seen that in Miami, we are very bilingual. And most of the kids here come from Spanish-speaking families. And in this school, 95% of the kids are Spanish-speaking children. So this kid just arrived. And as I told you at the beginning, I see the difference of how these ideas, visible thinking, help the children feel alive. I have seen this with young kids and with kids with autism. Believe it or not, that helps them turn their lives from black to white. So this little boy just arrived, and they were doing an out of Eden. They were comparing one image from another country and images or things in their surroundings after doing a neighborhood walk. So see how this promotes language development, because we also need to justify how are we going to cover the things that children should be learning in schools. Because the parents will say, well, what is my kid learning? So you need to justify. And what I find this is powerful with young kids to develop language. And in this case, to develop language one and the second language as well.
¿Qué te parecería a ti estar ahí? ¿Te gustaría estar en esta Mi nombre
It's very frustrated at the beginning.
Something that they don't have in their life. Now, what else did you write?
It's a matter of a short time, but the kids
But sometimes it's like it's hard for me to notice things, slow down. I notice things that I've never seen. Looking at the floor, a floor that I walk on every day. And I'm noticing
I never made oh, yeah. ¿Cómo se llama esto? Sí, de verdad. Entonces era muy grande. Sí, entonces never seen it.
You've never seen this before. Oh, wow. You see what happens when you slow down, right?
Let's stop because of the time. Another thing that happens is that children start to find the opportunity to communicate. So for literacy development is powerful because there are some times that a drawing cannot tell you something, so they feel the need to communicate. So the literacy becomes very natural, and it's something that they do it spontaneously because you are provoking thinking each other. Now let's talk about modeling and the thinking routines and the language of thinking. But I'll show you this initial part of the story. The kids were very disengaged with a lot of with worksheets. So talking with the teacher, we said, well, let's transform your classroom and let's start using the thinking routines, while we talk about all the cultural forces and all those things. So she said, I'm going to try it. So you'll see how disengaged these kids were, and in a couple of weeks, we decided to implement these ideas. And you see the difference from 9? Oh my.
Oh, what would you have done?
We're using the thinking routine that it's called See, Think, and Wonder.
Instead of
word,
it
phrase,
has
one
to
sentence.
I feel like sometimes, you know, I don't know if the kids really understand the direction of what is supposed to be.
Everyone's going to get a different picture. And with your partner, you're going to think. First, you're going to tell me what you see in the picture. Okay? So talk with your partner, and you and your partner are going to say to each other what you see in the picture.
I kind of yesterday it took me to that means you can't do it. Are even bolster. Land. And I can sleep. You look like a weight. You just I want to be
What do you think?
I'm going to stop there. Once again, something that was powerful about this is that you see this, I don't know if you can see the little boy in the back. He was a child with autism. After this, he began to draw because this book was about buildings. And the school, the teachers, they were surprised that he was an amazing artist. And he began to communicate. There were other kids that, in this classroom, there were some kids with special needs as well. You couldn't differentiate. The ones who began to take the lead were the ones that were silent. And this time, with this, they began to discover that they can contribute. And they became the ones who were leading the conversation. And you saw the little boy, Luke, he was one of the kids that was always silent. And here he was taking the lead in all the conversation. So, in early childhood, another thing that we have to take into account is that children learn play, and play is one of the most important activities. So, I had the big challenge when I was in Australia, a sabbatical that Karin invited me. The kids play all the time. So my job was to introduce the visible thinking in a classroom where the kids were playing 95% of the time. So it was very challenging, but the kids taught me a big lesson. When children are engaged in play, they are thinking. So when I wanted to know what their concept of thinking was, and when I asked them what is thinking, they began to say, oh, when I try to make a paper airplane fly, or when I read a book, or when I try to solve a puzzle. So they were describing what thinking was. So at that point, I found powerful to use, to document children's play. They use the documentation, and at the end of the day, we use a thinking routine to discuss the type of play that they had and the type of thinking that they had. And then, based continuously, when they were building blocks or whatever, they, what makes you say that? And with all the Australian accent, you see this? What do you think about this? So it was beautiful, and it was very natural that those kids were thinking. So we need to think about the thinking process that the child will follow to make things happen. And when children are engaged in play, they usually have a goal, things that they want to do. They use strategies to reach that goal, and they have theories. So if teachers want to have strong conversations, they need to focus on the theories that the children have. And that's the thinking. Because knowing how children think help teachers have good conversations and scaffold children's thinking. And learning, because learning is a consequence of thinking. Right, David? So I conclude this with with the same classroom that we saw before here in Miami, the kindergarten classroom. When the teacher, we were trying to help the children use the language of thinking. So we began to classify the different aspects of thinking, and then she was helping the children find out what thinking was. So we use,
What did we put on our
drawers.
Deal.
We put piece paper to think.
Okay.
Like there's little pictures in our brain, in our TV, and to think when we close our eyes.
So what I hear that Gio is saying is he's telling me what is thinking. And I hear, Gio, that you're giving me a strategy for thinking. So a way that we can think better. Yeah.
In order to think, you need to sit down, close your eyes, relax, and then your brain talks.
I see that you are also using a strategy for thinking, a way that helps you think the best.
Show you where the food is going.
Okay, and you told me that the brain has pictures, and you think about those pictures. So I see that you're telling me, Mauricio, that you're using imagery to tell me about what you think.
Over there, up there, it says, what is thinking?
That says, what is thinking?
This is reading thinking.
Look at that.
I'm just reading.
I know. Yeah.
You put your hand like this. No, like this.
Hey, look what Aina did. What did Aina do, Nico? What did she do?
Oh my God.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me share the role of the young thinkers. Let me pass the baton to Laura Jane.